What is going on, everybody? Tyler Brand back here with another video, and it is officially Pats camp week. The Patriots are going to training camp. They're checking in this week. While it may be a long process until they're actually on the field practicing, they are officially back in camp. Football season is just that much closer to returning. We're at this point around maybe even less than 50 days away before we start seeing some regular season football. It is going to be a beautiful week. You're going to be here with me all week on the channel talking about camp battles, all little tidbits of information about training camp and what the Patriots, in my opinion, will look like headed out of camp into the regular season. So for the first video this week of Pats camp week, let's talk about the fullback battle between a bunch of different guys on the roster, but mainly Jakob Johnson and Dan Vitale signed from the Green Bay Packers this past offseason. As a sidebar to this video, Dalton Keene could also be used in the fullback role, but for now, at least going into camp, I consider him a tight end in the tight end group, but I know he worked out with Jakob on Instagram the other day. We all saw that video. But I think the two primary guys that will be fighting for the roster spot, at least right off the bat, will be Dan Vitale and Jakob Johnson. So let's start in 2018, the last time that Develin and the fullback role was 100% healthy, at least in the last couple years. So basically, we'll start with the postseason, which is where Sony Michel really made his name. He averaged, and the Patriots averaged, 161 rushing yards per game in the 2018 postseason over the 3 games. Now, kind of rolling that into the regular season, Develin, as a pass blocker now, surrendered in the entire regular season on 20 pass blocking snaps, surrendered just 2 pressures and 1 hit and 1 hurry, defending for Brady in 2018. So we saw his effectiveness as a run blocker in the postseason, as a pass blocker in the regular season, and just overall, the way that the Patriots schemed a lot of the run in 2018, 84% of the time when Sony Michel and James Develin were on the field together, Sony Michel was running the ball. So, thinking about it and just the way that New England has operated with the fullback role, it's a very important role, especially in this iteration of the New England Patriots. And finally, New England has just been better. They average more yards per rush. They're more efficient when James Develin was on the field as a blocking role. Not to mention Develin's ability as a runner himself. I mean, in 2018, he had a few rushing touchdowns himself. So, especially in the last few years, New England has really used the fullback in a multitude of different ways. So now we look back at 2019. We had Jakob Johnson come in when Develin went down. Develin missed the entire season, pretty much. Jakob Johnson came in. He played a few games, almost missed the entire season, pretty much from when he started. So now we look at the Patriots running the ball without these two in the lineup. And Sony Michel ran for about 20 less yards last season in 3 more games with relatively the same amount of carries. Now, going beyond that and looking deeper down the depth chart, Rex Burkhead, who was the next running back man down. James White was the real pass catcher, as we all know. So Burkhead, the next guy to really get a good chunk of carries, he averaged a whole yard difference without Develin or without a legitimate fullback blocking for him. So there was definitely a noticeable difference in the way New England was able to move the ball on the ground without Develin or Johnson in 2019. So now we go to 2020. We all know Develin retires. Great career and good for him retiring. He had the neck injury in 2019, so we can understand why he hangs it up. So now looking at the fullback room, at least before and as we get into camp here, it's going to be Vitale versus Johnson. That's kind of, at least what to me it looks like, unless Dalton Keene is moved into this kind of area, which is definitely possible. So in 71 snaps last season for Jakob Johnson, he had an 81 Pro Football Focus as a pass blocker, only 6 pass blocking snaps, and as a run blocker, he had a 67.3 Pro Football Focus rating, and he was used predominantly as a run blocker. He ran block for 36 snaps. So again, shortened season, we have to take that into consideration, but he was pretty good in the serving size that we got for Johnson last season. Now, I think while Jakob Johnson may be and looked a little more promising as a pass defender and even as a run blocker, the small serving size, although it was good, doesn't really help him too much, especially compared to Vitale. And the other thing is, it seemed like to me, Vitale was a little bit more versatile in the offense. Now, it may have been because he was in the Packers and the Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers experiment there, but it seemed like, watching him on tape, he lined up as an H-back, he lined up as a wing defender, he lined up as a traditional fullback. There were plays where they sent him wide, almost like a tight end, and he was able to expand the options in the passing game, which we haven't seen that from Jakob Johnson. Could be because of the small serving size. It could also be because of the way New England likes to operate offensively. But it just seems like maybe they might want to go for someone that could serve Cam or whoever the quarterback, whether it's Cam or Stidham, that could serve the quarterback position a little bit more. Especially, again, we've talked about this in the last few videos, the offensive line I think will be okay. So I don't necessarily think you need an all pass blocking or run blocking fullback. So I think if you can have a guy like Vitale come in and help the offense out down the field and be able to stretch the field and do some more things, I think I lean more towards him right now, although Jakob Johnson did look very good in his small sample size. But, however, with that being said, I think a real wild card in this conversation is Dalton Keene. I think that he's got a lot of traits that would let him line up as a fullback. So I think he's going to be kind of the wild card in the way that this battle plays out. I mean, for all we know, Dalton Keene could be excellent at everything they need him to do, and he could be more versatile than both Johnson and Vitale. Finally, the last thing I look at in the fullback room or the fullback battle is going to be, we could look at Cam and Stidham and how they would use them. Stidham we can't really look at because we know he's in New England system already. But for Cam Newton, you know, he's coming from a different offense, from a Ron Rivera offense. And fortunately, he's in an offense that had ran two-back sets over 35% of the time in the last 4 or 5 years in Ron Rivera's offense. So luckily, I don't think that Cam, at least on this part of the offense, is going to have to change how his backs line up and how they use two-back sets or how they line guys up in the backfield. I think that would be an advantage for Cam in learning the offense a little bit. But I do wonder if they're going to get a guy that can help him stretch the field and stuff like that. And in that case, that's why it feels like Vitale would be more of the option looking at it today. However, we could also say, and it wouldn't be crazy to say, that if a guy like Dalton Keene can fill that hole, then Jakob Johnson could be your more traditional fullback and just be a straight-up blocker. So it's going to be very interesting. This is one of the more interesting battles that I think that we'll see in camp this season. I know it's a role that New England uses a lot, so it'll be very interesting to see how they fill that role. But that is going to do it for this video this week, the fullback battle. Who do you think will be the starting fullback for the New England Patriots? Do you think that they'll wane off of using them like they would have used a Develin? How do you think they're going to line up? What do you think their move is at the fullback position? That is it for the Monday episode of Pat's Camp Weekly. Again, they're reporting this week, so we're going to have a lot of fun talking about Pat's Camp, talking about the positional battles. Once again, I'm Tyler Brandt. Remember to follow me on Twitter at the Tyler Brandt, and then on Instagram, the new Patriot Instagram, Talking Pats. You'll see it right down here. But until next time, again, I'm Tyler Brandt. Be safe, be good, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.